Joseph Ber Soloveitchik was a major American Orthodox rabbi, Talmudist and modern Jewish philosopher. He was a scion of the Lithuanian Jewish Soloveitchik rabbinic dynasty. As a Rosh Yeshiva of Rabbi Isaac Elchanan Theological Seminary at Yeshiva University in New York City, the Rav, as he came to be known, ordained close to 2,000 rabbis over the course of almost half a century. He served as an advisor, guide, mentor, and role model for tens of thousands of Jews, both as a Talmudist scholar and as a religious leader. He is regarded as a seminal figure by modern Orthodox Judaism heritage. Joseph Ber Soloveitchik was born on February 27, 1903 in Pruzhany, then Russia. He came from a rabbinical dynasty dating back some 200 years. His paternal grandfather was Rabbi Chaim Soloveitchik, and his great-grandfather and namesake was Rabbi Yosef Dov Soloveitchik, the Beis HaLevi. His great-great-grandfather was Rabbi Naftali Zvi Yehuda Berlin, and his great-great-great-great-grandfather was Rabbi Chaim Volozhin. His father, Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik, preceded him as head of the RIETS rabbinical school at Yeshiva University. On his maternal line, Soloveitchik was a grandson of Rabbi Eliyahu Feinstein and his wife Gutta Feinstein Eniakuti Davidovich, who in turn was a descendant of a long line of Kapulian rabbis, and of the Tosafot Yom Tov, the Shelah, the Maharshal, and Rashi. Early years, education, and immigration. Soloveitchik was educated in the traditional manner at a Talmud Torah, an elementary yeshiva, and by private tutors, as his parents realized his great mental powers. According to a curriculum vitae written and signed in his own hand, in 1922 he graduated from the liberal arts gymnasium in Dubno. Thereafter he entered in 1924 the Free Polish University in Warsaw, where he spent 3 terms, studying political science. In 1926 he came to Berlin, Germany and entered the Friedrich Wilhelm University. He passed the examination for supplementary subjects at the German Institute for Studies by Foreigners and was then given full matriculation at the university. He took up studies in philosophy, economics and Hebrew subjects, simultaneously maintaining a rigorous schedule of intensive Talmud study. According to the CV, among his highly honored teachers in university, Geheimrat, were Professor Dr. Heinrich Meyer and Professor Dr. Max Dessoir, along with Professor Dr. Eugen Mitwatch and Professor Dr. Ludwig Bernhard. He studied the work of European philosophers, and was a lifelong student of Neo-Kantian thought. He wrote his Ph.D. thesis on the epistemology and metaphysics of the German philosopher Hermann Cohen. Contrary to most biographies, which erroneously state that in 1931 he received his degree, he actually passed his oral doctor's examination on July 24, 1930, but graduated with a doctorate only on December 19, 1932. Documents exist to support this assertion, possessed and publicized by the late Manfred Lehmann. In 1931, he married Toni Lewitt, who had earned a Ph.D. in education from Jena University. During his years in Berlin, Soloveitchik became a close disciple of Rabbi Chaim Heller, who had established an institute for advanced Jewish studies from an Orthodox perspective in the city. He also made the acquaintance of other young scholars pursuing a similar path to his own. One such figure was Rabbi Yitzchok Hutner, who would become the Rosh Yeshiva of the Yeshiva Rabbi Chaim Berlin, also in Brooklyn, New York. Both of them developed a system of thought that bridged the Eastern European way of traditional scholarship with the new forces of modernity in the Western world. Among the other personalities with whom he came into contact were Professor Alexander Altman, Rabbi Dr. Yehiel Yaakov Weinberg, rector of the Hildesheimer Rabbinical Seminary, and Professor Yeshayahu Leibowitz. Boston. After taking up residence in that city in 1932, Soloveitchik would refer to himself as the Soloveitchik of Boston. He pioneered the Maimonides School, one of the first Hebrew day schools in Boston in 1937. When the school's high school was founded in the late 1940s, he instituted a number of innovations in the curriculum, including teaching Talmud to boys and girls studying in classes together. He involved himself in all manner of religious issues in the Boston area. He was at times both the rabbinical supervisor of kosher slaughtering, shechita, and gladly accepting invitations to lecture in Jewish and religious philosophy at prestigious New England colleges and universities. His son-in-law, Rabbi Professor Isidore Twersky, was an internationally renowned expert on the writings of Maimonides and succeeded Professor Harry Ostrom Wolfson to the Nathan Littauer Chair of Jewish History and Literature at Harvard University. New York. Joseph Soloveitchik succeeded his father, Moses Soloveitchik, as the head of the RIETS Rabbinical School at Yeshiva University in 1941. He taught there until 1986, when illness kept him from continuing, and was considered the top Rosh Yeshiva from the time he began teaching there until his death in 1993. He was the first occupant of the Lieb Merkin Distinguished Professorial Chair in Talmud and Jewish Philosophy at RIETS. He ordained over 2,000 rabbis, many of whom are among the leaders of Orthodox Judaism and the Jewish people today. In addition, he gave public lectures that were attended by thousands from throughout the greater Jewish community, as well as regular classes at other New York institutions. Rav Soloveitchik advocated more intensive textual Torah study for Jewish women at the Stern College for Women, giving the first class in Talmud inaugurated at Stern College. With his enlightened outlook, he attracted and inspired many young men and women to become spiritual leaders and educators in Jewish communities worldwide. They in turn went out with the education of Yeshiva University to head synagogues, schools and communities, where they continue to influence many Jews to remain committed to orthodoxy and observance. Relations with Rabbi Menahem Mendel Schneerson, Rabbis Herschel Schachter, Sholem Kowalski, Julius Berman, Rabbi Menahem Genoch, and Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld have asserted that Rabbi Menahem Mendel Schneerson, the late Lubavitcher Rebbe, and Soloveitchik met for the first time while they both studied in Berlin. They met many times at the home of Chaim Heller. Soloveitchik told Kowalski he was a great admirer of the Rebbe. Schoenfeld quoted Soloveitchik as having told him that whilst both he and Schneerson were studying at the University of Berlin, I can testify that he never missed going to the mikveh one single day. In 1964, Soloveitchik paid a lengthy visit while Rabbi Schneerson was mourning the death of his mother. Their conversation during this visit lasted approximately 2 hours. Soloveitchik later visited again following the death of Rabbi Schneerson's mother-in-law, in 1980, accompanied by his student Herschel Schachter. Soloveitchik visited Schneerson at Chabad headquarters in Brooklyn on the occasion of a celebration marking the 30th anniversary of his leadership. The visit lasted close to 2 hours, after which Soloveitchik told Schachter his opinion of Schneerson: "He is a gaon, he is a great one. He is a leader of Israel, philosophy and major works." Torah Umada synthesis during his tenure at Yeshiva University. In addition to his Talmudist lectures, Soloveitchik deepened the system of synthesis, whereby the best of religious Torah scholarship would be combined with the best secular scholarship in Western civilization. This has become known as the Torah Umada, Torah and secular wisdom, the motto of Yeshiva University. Through public lectures, writings, and his policy decisions for the modern Orthodox world, he strengthened the intellectual and ideological framework of modern Orthodoxy. In his major non-Talmudist publications, which altered the landscape of Jewish philosophy and Jewish theology, Soloveitchik stresses the normative and intellectual centrality of the halakhic corpus. He authored a number of essays and books offering a unique synthesis of neo-Kantian existentialism and Jewish thought. the most well-known being the lonely man of faith, which deals with issues such as the willingness to stand alone in the face of monumental challenges, and Halakhic Man. A less-known essay, though not less important, is The Halakhic Mind, an essay on Jewish tradition and modern thought, written in 1944 and published only 40 years later, without any changes, the author himself stresses. Published by Seth Press. Distributed by Free Press, ISBN 978-0-684-86372-6. The Lonely Man of Faith. In The Lonely Man of Faith, Soloveitchik reads the first two chapters of Genesis as a contrast in the nature of the human being and identifies two human types. Adam I, or majestic man, who employs his creative faculties in order to master his environment, and Adam II, or covenantal man, who surrenders himself in submission to his master. Soloveitchik describes how the man of faith integrates both of these aspects. In the first chapter, Adam I is created together with Eve, and they are given the mandate to subdue nature, master the cosmos, and transform the world into a domain for their power and sovereignty. Adam I is majestic man who approaches the world and relationships, even with the divine, in functional, pragmatic terms. Adam I, created in the image of God, fulfills this apparently secular mandate by conquering the universe, imposing his knowledge, technology, and cultural institutions upon the world. The human community depicted in Genesis chapter 1 is a utilitarian one, where man and woman join together, like the male and female of other animals, to further the ends of their species. In chapter 2 of Genesis, Adam II, on the other hand, represents the lonely man of faith, bringing a redemptive interpretation to the meaning of existence. Adam II does not subdue the garden, but rather tills it and preserves it. This type of human being is introduced by the words, "It is not good for man to be alone," and through his sacrifice he gains companionship and the relief of his existential loneliness. This covenantal community requires the participation of the divine. Halakhic Man. In Halakhic Man, Soloveitchik propounds the centrality of halakha in Jewish thought. His theological outlook is distinguished by a consistent focus on halakha, i.e., the fulfillment and study of the divine law. He presents the halakha as the a priori basis for religious practice and for the theological foundation for Jewish thought. Soloveitchik emphasizes halakha's this worldly, here and now grounding, as opposed to religious approaches that focus on the nature of the transcendent realm. This work argues that Jewish piety does not, therefore, fit familiar models of Western religiosity, and presents a phenomenology of this religious type. Here, Halakhic Man, as a result of his study of Torah and his observance of the commandments. He also underscores the necessity for individual self-creation as the divinely assigned task of the human being. Halakhic Man has become well-read in the Orthodox Jewish community, but its psychology and model of Jewish law was rejected by most of non-Orthodox Judaism. One of the most prominent critiques is from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who wrote, Ish ha-halakha, Halakhic Man, lo haya velo nivra ela mashal haya, there never was such a Jew. Soloveitchik's study, though brilliant, is based on the false notion that Judaism is a cold, logical affair with no room for piety. After all, the Torah does say, "Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and soul and might." No, there never was such a typology in Judaism as the Halakhic Man. There was, and is, an Ish Torah, a Torah man, who combines halakha and agada, but that is another matter altogether. When I came to Berlin, I was shocked to hear my fellow students talking about the problem of halakha as a central issue. In Poland it had been a foreign expression to me. Halakha is not an all-inclusive term, and to use it as such is to restrict Judaism. Torah is the more comprehensive word. Halakhic mind is a four-part analysis on the correlation between science and philosophy historically. Only in its fourth and last part the author introduces the consequences on the halakha of the analysis performed in the previous three parts.